So I want to share with you one of the most common questions that comes up to our team here at Client Success, and it has to do with client success or Salesforce. And the conversation typically goes like this. It's usually an executive or somebody in operations or anybody that's very familiar with Salesforce. And they say, look, I've already invested in Salesforce or any CRM for that matter. And this is my customer relationship management platform. I've got my sales team in there. I've got many of my executives. I got a bunch of people that are in Salesforce. Why do I need an extra platform, an extra app for my customer success team to use? Why would I need to go down that path? It's really what it comes down to is Salesforce and most CRMs for that matter have a few challenges in a few key areas when it comes to customer success. It's not that you can't do customer success inside your CRM, but you have a few key challenges that you want to think through. And we find it's these four key areas: customer health scores, customer life cycles, customer conversations, and customer reporting. So I'll kind of run through each of these one by one. So let's talk about health scores for a minute. And when you think about health scores in a customer success context, what we find is that there's kind of two schools of thought or two different ways of doing it. And it comes down to this concept of a point in time, the health score right now versus a trending health score. How is this customer, how's my overall book of business trending over time? So if you're to come into client success, you would see a trend of a health score, whether it's for your entire book of business or for an individual client. And that's really important when you think about how I work with customers. Because yes, it's interesting to know whether or not that customer is quote unquote healthy today, but it's much more interesting and much better context to understand, are we trending up? Are we trending down? Are we staying flat? What is that looking like? Because each of those is going to impact how I interact with that customer. So it's really important that you not only have the point in time health score, but you have an understanding of how customer health is trending over time. So if you start to think about how to understand trends in Salesforce, like out of the box, Salesforce is going to give you that point in time. What's the health of that customer look like right now? If you want to do trends, you technically can, but it doesn't come out of the box. And so what it's going to require is you have to do a bunch of custom admin, a bunch of custom development work. So as with all custom development projects, it needs to be built, it needs to be deployed, it needs to be trained on, it needs to be maintained. That's all custom work that you're going to be doing that doesn't come out of the box. So that's a bigger investment that you're making to go down that path. So that's kind of the health score side of it. The next question comes around customer life cycles. And really this conversation comes down to how your CSMs work day in, day out. Let's take an individual CSM. We'll call her Crystal. And so Crystal, let's say she's a mid-market CSM. Let's say she manages about 60 customers. Maybe each of those customers pays you 20, 25 grand a year. So let's say she manages about $1.5 million in revenue, but she manages 60 customers. So, I mean, she's got an enormous amount of stuff on her plate. She has, 6 customers that are in onboarding. She has 8 customers that are up for renewal. She has 15 customers that that are kind of post onboarding, trying to drive better adoption with. She has customers over here that just lost a key sponsor. And so we're trying to resell the value of our platform and our solution. So she has all of this going on, and she has a ton of stuff to maintain. She has a ton of different things that she needs to keep on her plate. And what we find is really important, it's important for you to have playbooks and processes for what Crystal does for each of these customers. So the 6 customers she has in onboarding, great. Here's the checklist of everything that needs to happen during onboarding. Bang, let's give that to her. Or the customers that are going up for renewal. Here's the checklist of everything that she needs to do, when it needs to be done by, so she gets a really clear, up-to-date to-do list of everything she needs to do. When I have a key sponsor turnover, okay, that's fine. Here's the playbook of what to do. And so in a customer success context, this idea of lifecycle management and having pre-built, proactive playbooks of things that you need to do in order to drive customer value, you really just can't drive true customer value without it. Now, this is something that comes out of the box. This is something that is predetermined, pre-built within client success, and you get to customize and tailor all of the different playbooks that you want to deploy. Thinking about how you would do that in Salesforce, there's different ways that you could do it. Some people have tried to hack it together using kind of like ticketing type systems, where when I get to this stage, I need to do, these tickets or these checkboxes. Some people have tried to do it using some type of a custom object, but it's just not something that fits nice and cleanly into kind of the typical workflow of what you would see inside of Salesforce. It's not something that fits naturally on the account, on an opportunity, definitely not on a contact. And so it's something that requires some type of, again, custom dev work that needs to be created, needs to be deployed, needs to be trained, needs to be maintained. So again, more custom work that you're doing, and you don't get the benefit of best practices. It's something that you're just building from scratch for yourselves. So that's the life cycle side. So let's talk about customer conversations for a minute. So if you think about customer conversations in Salesforce, one of the common challenges that people have when they're trying to do this is, let's say I'm going into an account and I'm doing an executive business review. So I want to go grab the notes from our last conversation or our last executive business review. While that information technically is there in Salesforce, it oftentimes is this process of trying to figure out, okay, where did I log that activity? Is that activity on the opportunity? Is that on the account? Is that on the custom object? Is that on a subscription object that we've created? And so in terms of just managing and knowing what's the last conversation that we've had, who was it with? Who was that conversation with? What are the notes from that call? And so what we find is in client success, it's really important that you have all that information in one simple app. We call it the engagement app, and it allows a CSM or anybody that's managing that customer to go in very quickly, see what's the last conversation that we've had, what are all the notes from it, give me all of my emails. It's one simple searchable place, has a nice timeline view. So anybody, whether they're filling in for a CSM, or maybe I have a new CSM, maybe I had some turnover on the team, anybody can come into the engagement app and very quickly, without having to search or try to figure out where that activity was logged, all that information is right there in client success, super easy to find. So the final part that we'll talk about here is customer reporting. And really what it comes to is, in Salesforce, you have all sorts of different reports and dashboards and many different types of things that you can create. And what you find is that in practice, out of the box, most of the reporting, most of the dashboard you're going to create is based on the data that's in Salesforce. So for the most part, that's going to be your sales and marketing data, and it's going to give you really good insights on activity and pipeline and, how things have moved through a funnel to, from prospect to lead to close one customer. When it comes to reporting on health of customers, when it comes to reporting on your install base and how renewals are trending over time, how forecasts are trending over time, how upsells and downsells and churns, how all that is happening over time, that's not something that, again, is built out of the box in Salesforce, whereas in client success, that's our bread and butter. So you're going to see a series of reports that focus on health, that focus on revenue growth, that focus on customer growth, logo retention, and lots of different reports that, again, are really just focused on helping you maintain the health and growth of your install base. So this is an example of a potential, like a revenue report. So month in, month out, you'll be able to see what revenue did we bring into the month, what was upsold, what new revenue did we sell, what was cross-sold, what was downsold, and what was churned. So you see a very clear understanding month in, month out of what's going on with your business. The other part to it is starting to think about, how do we forecast not just new business, but more importantly, in this case, how do we forecast renewals? How do we forecast upsells? How do we forecast cross-sells? And really what you're going to find inside of client success, that it's not like any other forecasting app which you can use, and you can forecast in a lot of different places. You can forecast out of a spreadsheet if you like. what you're going to find inside of client success is the ability to take all of that rich customer data from elsewhere, all that customer health scores, all of your feedback mechanism, all that information, bring that into your forecast. So you can start to say, okay, this customer's up for renewal and I'm going to forecast this renewal, and I'm very confident in the forecast of that renewal because this customer is also very healthy. And vice versa. I'm not so confident in the forecast of this renewal because this customer isn't very healthy. Lots of different ways that you'd be able to think about that. But again, kind of coming back to client success, really the focus is on how do we bring in all that data and enrich it and pull it together so that you have all the key information that you need to drive success. So when it comes down to kind of this whole process, it really doesn't come down to client success or Salesforce. The best companies out there, we understand that Salesforce is being used by the best companies in the world. And for a lot of them, it is their quote unquote source of truth. And from a customer success standpoint, we're not trying to change that. What we're trying to say is it has its limitations. And so what the best companies are doing is they're using a platform like Client Success to really focus on the areas where Salesforce doesn't tend to shine, but still integrating very tightly with Client Success, with Salesforce, so that all the information that you're getting inside of Client Success feeds into Salesforce. And so the two systems really work complementary to each other. And so that's really, hopefully that answers a lot of questions around why client success why client success, why Salesforce. I'll just wrap up here. If you're not familiar with Client Success, we are a customer success growth platform. We're one of the leaders in the industry. You'll find we're a leader on G2. We've won multiple industry awards. We're the Cody Award winner for the best customer success solution on the market. And so if you'd love to learn more, we'd be happy to talk to you about it. Find us. We're at clientsuccess.com and look forward to talking with you. Thanks.